Imagine living decades of your life without seeing sunlight, without feeling the wind on your face, locked in a cold, damp basement. This is not a horror movie plot, but the reality of Elisabeth Fritzl. For 24 years, Elisabeth was a prisoner of her own father, Joseph Fritzl, in the quiet town of Amsterdam, Austria. The case shocked the world, not only because of its brutality, but also because of the psychological perversity involved. It all started in 1984, when Elisabeth was just 18 years old. Joseph, her father, convinced her to help him with a renovation in the basement of the house. What seemed like an innocent request was actually the beginning of an endless captivity. As she went down to the basement, Joseph locked the door behind her. The space had been meticulously prepared. Reinforced walls, soundproof doors, no windows. A bunker designed so no one would ever discover it. For years, Elisabeth's mother and neighbors believed she had run away. Joseph spread the story that his daughter had joined a sect and wanted no contact with her family. The lie gained even more credibility when Joseph forged letters supposedly written by Elisabeth, stating that he was fine but did not want to return home. In the basement, life was torment. Elisabeth was sexually abused countless times by her father. 7 children were born from this relationship, transforming captivity into an even more complex hell. 3 of these children remained trapped with their mother in the basement, while 3 others were taken by Joseph to live above ground with him and his wife, under the pretense that Elisabeth had abandoned the babies. Joseph's manipulation was so elaborate that his own wife believed her grandchildren had been mysteriously left on their doorstep by their missing daughter. The underground space was tiny and stuffy. Initially, there was no shower or proper ventilation system. Elisabeth and her children lived with mold, suffocating heat, and constant humidity. Total isolation led to deep psychological trauma. The children who grew up in the basement had no idea of the outside world. For them, life was just that dark, closed space. Joseph exercised complete control. He regulated food, access to electricity, and even moments of kindness, creating a dynamic of dependence and fear that reinforced his psychological hold over his victims. The violence was not just physical. Joseph constantly manipulated his daughter's mind, telling her that no one would believe her if she tried to run away, and that her mother and brothers would suffer if she revealed the truth. For decades, the town of Amsterdam lived in ignorance. Joseph was seen as a respected, hardworking, and even helpful man, which made the secret all the more disturbing. What finally exposed the truth was an unexpected detail: the health of one of the children. In 2008, 19-year-old Kirsten became seriously ill, and Joseph was forced to take her to the hospital. Doctors were surprised by the young woman's health, as she showed signs of malnutrition and had never had a medical examination in her entire life. Joseph tried to justify it, but his explanations were not convincing. The police were called. Meanwhile, Elisabeth begged her father to accompany her to the hospital to explain her daughter's origins. Joseph, under pressure, gave in, not imagining that his empire of silence was about to collapse. At the hospital, Elisabeth was isolated and finally managed to tell her story to the authorities. The shock was immediate. A woman who had been missing for 24 years was alive and had spent all that time in captivity. The police didn't believe him at first, but after hours of questioning, the consistency of his account, combined with DNA tests, confirmed the unthinkable. Joseph Fritzl was the children's father and grandfather. The case exploded into world news. The image of the quiet Austrian town dissolved into horror, and Joseph became a symbol of calculated and persistent evil. In 2009, Joseph was sentenced to life in prison for kidnapping, rape, incest, negligent homicide of one of the babies, and other heinous crimes. During the trial, he remained cold and calculating, only at the end admitting his guilt. No apology seemed enough to repair decades of pain and irreversible trauma. Elisabeth and her children were taken to a special clinic for rehabilitation, where psychologists, psychiatrists, and social workers still work to help them rebuild their lives. The reintegration process is slow and painful. Children raised in a basement had to learn to deal with basic things like sunlight, socialization, and even the notion of time. The case raised profound questions about surveillance, trust, and the limits of human evil. How is it possible for someone to keep such a monstrous secret for so long without being discovered? Joseph's bunker became a symbol of human darkness, a space designed not just to hide, but to nullify a person's existence and subjugate them completely. Psychologists who analyzed Joseph say he displayed traits of extreme narcissism and an unhealthy need for absolute control over his daughter and family. Elisabeth, on the other hand, is seen as an exemplary survivor, able to endure 24 years of abuse and still muster the strength to protect her children from hell. Elisabeth Fritzl's story is a disturbing reminder that true horror often lies not in fictional monsters, but in seemingly ordinary people hiding unspeakable secrets. Did you enjoy the content? Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more glimpses of the mind where we reveal what many prefer to ignore.